Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Political Tuesday. My name is Himba Malambo. As usual, your guests, Bwalya Nelyashi Afrikansa. Ilyashi opotusambirishanya intungulu shishesu efyobale to planning la. So we welcome everyone wherever you are, and we just ask you to join us through the link on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook. The links are going to be shared on all the platforms. You are welcome to join us. You can join us through the comments and also through you can come in the studio. You'll be allowed to ask your question or to share your contribution. As you've seen, I'm not alone in the studio. I've just been joined by these great men of Mother Zambia. Elo na tontonkanya. So aba umeweka ema politician ngaba na mayo tuwababika kwisa. Anyway.
Muliba mwenso.
Tamutupera fyo mpata kange mumona kwati tuli mukichini.
There's nothing for free. You have to fight for it.
Please be gentle with us.
I'm speaking on behalf of all of us. No.
I'm not speaking on behalf of you.
Before we go any further, comrades, let's put the Women's Month aside. With me in the studio, my co-host this evening is CJ. CJ, welcome to the program. CJ, welcome to the program. It looks like CJ is having problems with the internet, and however, we'll proceed. I would love to introduce the guest we have in the studio. I'm sure you're very familiar with the others, but there's one specifically whom I would want him to tell us about himself. Chalwe,
Natotela, my name's Chalwe Patson Kasongo. I am with the Citizens First under President Harry Kalaba. We are the Orange team. But that by the time we are in 2026, the nation will have to be painted the orange. And in the party, I am serving as the chairperson for research and policy. So there are a lot of issues that concern the nation. I thank you for welcoming us to this platform.
Thank you so much, comrade, and welcome to the program. Zimba mwaisa npomkwai.
Mkwai katushinga mwabuka shani lero mwabomba shani na bekala chalwa ba konfwa konsoko tuvelele. Kaili na bandamano bonse abanandi bali pa platform pa bonse tulishani mkwai.
Twatotela na tutemwa kuba na imwe pali program. Zimba tomitambula. Nondo tomitambula.
Nili makola chomene.
Makola.
Na totela mkwai.
Wamukelebai muzuile chani.
Luitumezi lutozi hande mina mtozi chwaniko kimanzi bwani sichabasahesu sichabasavulozi sichabasa Zambia kamu lutwela kaufela. We are here again to discuss matters of our nation, so please bear with us. Forgive us in advance if we wrong you before we start discussing.
So muliba masambi mweka muliba masambi.
Kaniki mtewa tuwala panga masambi hao.
Thank you so much, Kelebai, and thank you so much, comrades. And just for sparing this time, it shows how much you love our country, Mother Zambia. Our topic of discussion this evening is the IMF conditions for Africa. Is Zambia safe? Ama conditions ya Africa kuliba IMF. Is Zambia safe? And viewers out there, when we are saying is Zambia safe, we are not talking about the land Zambia. We are talking about the citizen of Zambia. Those are the people we are talking about. So if we are saying is Zambia ready, Sazionela patali tikamba are we safe as Zambians with these conditions for Africa from IMF? Having said that, or having introduced that, I'll give each panelist will be given three minutes to give our introduction points. I'll start with Dr. Chalwe.
That sounds very nice, as Dr. Chalwe. I received the blessings.
Amen.
Thank you very much. I feel this subject is of great importance to the nation. It's something that we cannot overemphasize. And in as far as we are concerned, the issue of IMF has been there for quite some time. I feel that for as long as we've been there, IMF has been a name that has been as consistent as we have known this country. And sometimes you are left to wonder, what exactly is it that this IMF is actually looking for? Why is it from the time of Chuluba, at the time when the privatization was taking place, the same institutions seemed to have been present and playing a very critical role in the turn of events and also the nature of a country that we have ended up having. And because of that historical background that we've had with IMF, I think a lot of us Zambians have generally treated the IMF with a lot of suspicion, such that in most instances, we find it very hard to even give them an ear or even look at
What happened? What happened? Why, Manuel? Okay, it seems like we've lost our comrade. As we wait for him to come back, CJ, welcome to the program. CJ, can you hear me? You are muted, CJ. I think you are CJ if he ntambo na chupa. Ushe vachalwe na babwela. Are we having vachalwe na babwela? Okay, vachalwe petition kwai.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are saying the IMF generally has been treated with a lot of suspicion. And also, in addition, the rest of Africa, maybe let's not say the rest of Africa, generally Africa has started looking at things quite differently. We have reached a point where we want self-rule. The way the young people, our generation, so to say, have come up is just that we are looking at self-rule. And we have also come to appreciate that the development of Africa in totality, as well as the development of the individual nations, is not going to depend on the help that we are getting from outside. It will depend on what we ourselves as a people are doing in order for us to emancipate Africa, in order for us to emancipate Zambia in itself. So when we start discussing the issue of IMF, that's why when Mkelawa was talking about economics, before you can even talk about the impact of IMF on the economy of a country, you might also wish to interrogate IMF itself, and not just the IMF, but also all the other institutions that provide aid, that provide loans, and they pay.
Vachilwa vachalwe vaya futhi. Okay, Nondo, naisa kulimwe. IMF china mash.
Yeah, mwelesa wandi. Mvule kone chisote. I think we are not going to go into the definition of what IMF is and who is IMF. I think all of us knows that IMF kabungwe kamo akakongwesha kalova mufyalwe fya pusana across the world. And from the onset, I need to make this point very clear that this is an organization that treats African nation very unfairly. If you look at kalova bakongwesha nama rates bapera kuma African countries as compared to the charges that they give to their fellows in Europe, America, and many other, countries, you find that an African country is going to borrow money from IMF first and foremost above 45%. When another country in Europe borrowing the same amount of money from IMF will be getting at 0.8%. And Zambians must know, the question that you ask is that, are we safe with IMF in Congolese? The answer to that question is we are very, very much unsafe.
Nondo twalai soko nachafafe mumpeleka introduction kwa mwalai samtupele submission yenu yonse. Your main submission.
Okay.
Yes, my dear. Tuatotela. Zimba, IMF Chinamash. Your introduction part.
I think good evening, everyone and the viewers. Like what Chalwe had earlier alluded to, one thing that we all should put in mind is IMF is just a lending institution. Ngani muno mu Zambia fwebekera mu Zambia muno IMF tayipusenera ba Bepoti, IMF tayipusenera ba Izwe. Tuleba okutira kabungwe kapera kwempia na ngwinkongole isho mpia nga bakupera kubwesha with an interest. If your IMF bomba nomba kabungwe kaikala achalo palwerere pamuru tabalolesha fe pa Zambia balolesha pa Africa balolesha pa Europe balolesha no kwalekana. It's a lending institution that gives funding to whoever or whosoever wants to go and borrow money. Na totela mkwae.
Okay, Vomkelevai, what is your take?
Yeah, Nabala Ndakale, me, I would simply say IMF, it's an international institution that that identifies, that comes in and offers assistances to countries that are struggling financially or that have some economical difficulties. And it's an organization that comes in to rescue or to help or to beef up the situation, to beef up support in mitigating the challenges the specific country is facing. It's not just money. They may come up with all other kind of assistances by engaging other stakeholders, international stakeholders, in coming in to mitigate, to help resuscitate the victims or the country that is at on the receiving end. So basically, I could simply say that IMF is not just for Africa, but we Africans, we have taken it as a savior. We say we always create our own problems on our own, and then when we are in deep trouble, we are now busy looking for who can come to our aid and help us. And IMF's name always comes to be on the top of the list. And now we have other countries that are coming in with the similar kind of assistances that IMF is. Hence, these issues of people now crying for who is the best. Is IMF safe? Is IMF is IMF safe in giving assistances? Are they harsh? Are their conditions harsh? So there's now this monopoly of choosing what which institution would want to use to sort out our problems. So basically, IMF is one of the organizations that comes in to help out when a country is in trouble. It's an international.
Thank you so much, Mkelevai. Thank you so much for that submission. I'll start with Zimba. Zimba, is Zambia safe with the conditions of IMF at the moment as a country? You have 5 minutes, no interjection, 5 minutes, Zimba.
All right. Before I answer that one, let me make a submission why I should qualify my answer. If you Alanda wants some panelist, you know, any form of help that comes in form of not a grant but a loan, bano no pela ukupela feloni ya free. For say they ask you to say you're going to pay, you borrow 10,000 and you bring back a 10,000 even after 3-4 months. People don't behave like that. After 1 month, a certain amount of percentage, 30%, if it's a 20%, that's the year common to 50%. Somebody will ask you, out of that 10,000 you have borrowed, you need to bring back another that 10,000 with the 50% in the first month. They keep on increasing, not until a certain third period. Now, what am I saying so? I am lending institutions, they just differ from who is better and who is not better. We have even individual capacities that could lend Zambia money from outside the world, from the Western world. About quarter capacity, maybe to about Congo. Now we also have other countries that are practicing, like Womkelewa has just been speaking. We have other countries that are practicing the same way of doing lending, just like IMF has been doing. Now, lending to when you are a borrower, you become a slave. I want to put that in clear black and white context. It's even in the Bible. A borrower is always a slave to the master. Now, when you borrow, it does not depend who you borrow from. I want you to get that point right. It does not depend from who you borrow from. The truth of the matter is you've borrowed and you've become a slave to that individual. So, again, what really matters is the conditions of that borrowing, or the settlement that you have put on the table. Assuming you want to borrow 20,000 from Bamkelebai. Bamkelebai becomes a flexible person. We negotiate properly. And it tells me you are going, even after 3, 4, 5 months, you still give me back my 20,000 without any interest. Then I've negotiated the deal between me and Bamkelebai very well. But in an aspect where Bambi Wakesa Wakovati, after 1 month, if we don't have be 20,000, then that is not a good deal. I would rather it's me to decide whether to go either Kodiloni Abam Kelebai, Nangumfoe. Now, like everyone was saying, the problem that we have had for a long period of time, since time immemorial, like even Wachibale was saying, the major problem that we've been having is we've created our own problems. And we want other people now to come in and mitigate those problems. So the reason why Africa has been running to the IMF is because it has always been in problems. So personally, the conditions of the loans that are being given by IMF today, for me, they are okay. Because today, we have a loan that was signed, which has attracted no interest. So the reason why I'm saying they are okay is because even when we borrow, after 5 years, when we start paying that money, we will not add any interest. So on that aspect, it all depends on the negotiator or the deal that you're going to strike between Kongwesha na. So what really matters when you're borrowing or when you want to ask for help is how you negotiate your help. I submit.
Thank you so much, Zimba. Comrade Zimba, thank you so much. Do we have any reaction?
Yes, if I may.
Please come in. Under a minute.
Although I'm having a bit of challenge with internet, so I'll be in and out, but I'll make sure I am in for the rest of this session.
Thank you so much, comrade.
I hear Comrade Zimba saying it's okay because it doesn't attract interest. And I think that is the hook, the very thing that has hooked Africa for a very long time. That is a case of being hoodwinked. And I wouldn't take it so lightly that leaders would be in a position to assume that there is a free lunch somewhere. You go, people give you money, when you even know that the time value of money means that when they give you money, there is something maybe tangible or intangible that they are going to get from you. The end result is that you find that instead of you as a country being a sovereign nation, what's happening is the interest that you are paying are coming in kind. And one of the kinds that we are paying is that instead of being an unaligned nation, we have ended up being an aligned nation. Why? Because these people are throwing some little things such that we are depending on them, and us depending on others, they feel like we have offended them. We are not being loyal to them. Why? And we are not being grateful because they're giving us loans where they are not giving us interest. What we are refusing as citizens first, and I believe with all the other comrades, is that we should fall prey to such propositions of free interest loans. It doesn't exist anywhere, number one. Number two, it is just promoting dependency on them. We can never have a situation. I submit, Chair Lady.
Thank you so much, Chalwe. And do we have any reaction to that?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Comrade Nondo, under a minute.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. I think it's important to understand that IMF is not an island. Bali kwata utuma subsidiaries, utuma organizations utuma pusana. And they also run businesses across the world. They've invested in different sectors. So this IMF will come actually disguised in the so-called investors that are under IMF. For instance, they will come in the name of, people that wants to invest in the mines. So before the IMF gives you the so-called free lunch, they would bring conditions. No tax holidays, tax avenues, and all these. They don't want to be paying money, and you think you are dealing with vendetta, you are dealing with, KCM, whilst you are dealing with the sons and daughters of IMF. No wonder they can never be a loan without interest. If they tell you we are giving you a loan with no interest, then they are lying to you. This is the more reason why, for instance, our example, the example of Zambia, they cannot give you what you are calling a free loan, whilst they establish an office at the Ministry of Finance and also establish an office at the Central Bank of Zambia, because they want to control each and every resources that you are collecting as a country. This is why they will tell you to remove the subsidies before they can actually give you that loan. They want you to collect your own money. You give it to them and then they manage for you. So you cannot say, no, we are being given a free loan. There's no such a thing. We need to bear in mind as Africans that the survival of the West is dependent on our failure. So IMF, being a Western organization that pushes the Eurocentric agenda, will never come to any African country to give them a loan for free. We need to be very careful. And this is where our leaders have failed to understand that the IMF is not here to develop, either to assist. In fact, we use wrong terms to say, no, they are here to help us. They are not here to help us. This is an institution that wants to make profit. So if somebody gives you a loan, they are not assisting you. They are just doing business with you. Default in accordance with the agreement, then definitely penalized. And all the same, we need to know that I am alone.
Nondo, please sum up.
So in short, the IMF is in each and every country to make a profit and to make sure that that country doesn't get out of the hook of those conditions, so that you become permanent slaves to them. You need to look up to them for anything that you want to do for your country. So there's never been a country in the world that is developed by the money gotten from IMF.
Okay, thank you so much, Nondo. I'm going to get back to you to give now your submission. Please go ahead.
Thank you so very much.
5 minutes is allocated to you.
I'll continue where I ended tonight.
Okay, Nondo, there's a reaction before we get into your time. Bom Keleba, under a minute.
Thank you. As Zambian, we need to be very honest with ourselves when talking about issues regarding the assistance or the lending services that we are getting from the help from developed countries, for example. You see, when you have a mind, when you have a crooked mind, you won't even be able to recognize legitimate institutions that are doing legitimate businesses without you going back into your own ways of thinking that those people are not there legitimately, but they are there to gain or to steal or taking advantage. So we should be clear on that aspect. We know, but when we don't have facts on the ground, we should not speculate. That's the mistake which we Zambians do. We always speculate because we are used of and we think everyone that comes to us is a crooked. Look at the issue already that at hand, on issues to do with.
Allow me to interject. I think this is
May I claim my time?
I haven't. Bom Keleba, you are still on the floor. Finish and please wind up.
But it's just like interjecting.
You will react, my brother.
I'll come to you. Nalaisa ba Chalwe tata nalaisa. Likeni Bom Keleba watch the sum up. Just write the point. That reaction wa Chalwe. Muleshta interject Bom Keleba.
The crooked mind will always think otherwise.
Okay, Bom Keleba.
There's something legit going on.
Submit.
No, like can you push a point here and then Mwala Suka, you can attack me or this.
Okay, Bom Keleba, please go ahead. Please go ahead, Bom Keleba. Then we are Charlie Mwalaisa. Go ahead, Bom Keleba.
Thank you. Mwandufiana point here, but often therefore Kulandati, the guilty ones will always cry fire when there's something that actually points a finger at them. Okay. They will think everyone that comes with clean hands, everyone, they will think them as oiled or as dirty.
Thank you so much, Bom Keleba.
Without even providing any facts, but you're just making innuendo.
Thank you so much. I'll come to you. Nabaya ba Chalwe baya. Okay, tuala ba lolela. Nondo, please make your submission. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Himba.
Mkwai.
I'm a very sad African person.
Yeah.
Because of our mindset. When we sit in class, we think we are educated when we are being miseducated. Africans, we are victims of circumstances. That much we should bear in mind, that nobody cares about us until the day will realize that all the problems that we have are created by others for us in order for us to sup up to them all the times. So when we find ourselves amongst them and we want to defend them, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot. That's why we have most of our brothers that are running away from Africa to go and live in Europe, yet the Europeans are running away from Europe to come and get resources in Africa. The mindset. When we are able to speak good English, we think we know it all. Until the day we realize to say, an enemy will never give us anything for free. There's no any slave master who wish to see his slave free unless the slave himself is willing to free himself. And that's the mindset. I'm coming to that. Yes.
Okay. We are talking about IMF this evening.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
IMF has been a monster among us. We need to be we need to be very hard on them. They are not here to help us. There's no any country, like I said earlier on, there's no any country in Africa that has been developed by IMF. If that's the mindset we have, then we are choosing to be slaves rather than be free. Africa has everything. We have all the kind of resources that we need to develop our own countries. But these institutions like IMF have created, an environment where they want Africans to think we do not have the capacity to develop our own countries using our own resources unless we ask from them. This is why you see that amongst us as Black people, even amongst us as Zambians, we are able to defend the IMF. You cannot negotiate. I've heard from other colleagues that have submitted to say it depends on the negotiator. You do not negotiate on an empty stomach. An African country like Zambia cannot sit with IMF and start negotiating, because IMF, they have standard rules and regulations. They have, rules that you, the one who wants to borrow from them, must follow. You don't have to negotiate. They will tell you A, B, C, D. If you fail to follow their rules and regulations, then that's when you hear to say you failed to acquire or to get the IMF bailouts because you are not qualified depending on their conditions. For instance, they will come with, some sort of saying they want to regulate you. They want to tell you how to run your own nation. They will bring democracy. They will bring human rights. Now, if you look at those human rights, they are bringing things that are against your culture and traditions. When you refuse, then you don't qualify to get money from the IMF. So when you say you're going in there to negotiate, you're not negotiating with them over anything. They are telling you what to do and how the results should be. So we cannot say no, because we are, in fact, if there are people that have stolen from Africa, Himba, Madam Himba, you may wish to know that when IMF comes, for instance, in this particular instance, the Patriotic Front sat with the IMF, and the IMF told us the conditions that needed for us to qualify to get the bailout. One of the conditions was that we allow what they are calling human rights. That has resulted into having now gayism and lesbianism in some form of formal acceptance, because according to them, this is human rights that is married to democracy. Secondly, they will tell you to say you remove subsidies from your very own people, and that's the money that they are going to lend you, not using their own money. So when we sit here and pretend that we are educated and we understand these things, then we are just accepting to be slaves. Because somebody is stepping on my foot and I need to say, sorry, sir, you are stepping on me. That's the typical thinking of an African person. The IMF is not here to develop Zambia or any other country. The IMF is here to make a profit and to make sure that we become permanent
Comrade Nondo,
slaves,
please sum
people
up.
that are going to look up to them for everything. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Any reaction? I know Chalwe Munjeleleko, you went out when I almost brought you in. Please come in, comrade.
The trouble I was having with Mukelawa is that he's attacking the people that are talking and not the issue. Before the platform here, we have laid down the principles of IMF. For him to assume that we do not have information because we are saying the facts which he's uncomfortable with, I think we are missing the point. The idea we are getting at is that teti umwaume aisa mkunganda kumyove ale kupere mpia then ale kuwatapali otondefwa. He keeps giving you money, even you as Mukelawa or any other person on the platform. You hear that somebody is giving your daughter money and is alleging that he's not interested in anything that is going to come from whatever they are doing. That immediately you are vexed.
So, there's no goods in kind. Ufira waipsha tinge shimpia. Shireisa shani.
Because the day he's going to ask for a favor, you fail to refuse because that boy has been giving you a lot of money. It follows naturally that you must accept. If not, you'll be considered bad and you'll be moving with a lot of guilt. This is how IMF is behaving. To assume that IMF has come and is now offering free interest loans, that is not true. But even though, you must see how hard it is for us even to discuss the details of IMF deals. It's because on its own ground, the principle does not allow us even to deal with them. Na tukula Africa, na tukula Zambia. Let's wake up and do our own things. That's what we are saying. This discussion has nothing to do with a political party. This is a matter of patriotism to the country. And we must speak with the conviction that one day, the same way we suffered because of...
We've lost our dear comrade. I hope he'll come back. Mukelawa, do you have any reaction under a minute from that?
I said I did not attack anyone here. I was also generalizing. I was talking about crooked minds. Okay? That's what I said. Anyway, the issue is that I know many people are unhappy, especially the Zambian politicians on the opposition. Reasons being that they tried themselves, but unfortunately, when they tried to go to negotiate, because IMF did not come to us, did not come to Zambia to say, hey guys, here we are, we have these deals, we are ready to offer to you. No, it's us Zambians that went to IMF to ask for help because we have destroyed what we had borrowed. We have chewed the money.
Okay, sum up, please. It was under a minute.
So when our colleagues from the other side saw that they are messed up, they wanted to borrow more. Unfortunately, the IMF said, but why? Can you explain? How did you mess up that? And you want us to? There was a little of issues. That's why.
Thank you so much, Mukelawa. Thank you, Mukelawa. You come to that. Can we all do our submissions? Then we'll come to the reactions. Please, comrades, take note, right? I know the debate is getting heater and heater. Can we just write? We'll give you the time to react. We just want to hear everybody's submission, then we'll go into the full debate. Our viewers out there, you can join us in the studio, or you can join us through the Facebook platform where you can share your views through the comments, and I'll be able to read, and our comrades here on the platform will be able to react from that. Chalwe, your submission. Okay, Chalwe, we have somebody who joined us in the studio. Under a minute. Percy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I hope I'm loud and clear.
Yes, you are.
I just want to react on a few things, and to ask the panel just one or two things. The first thing is you were talking about.
Hope you are noting down
you
those
have to remember that. Pardon?
I'm just communicating to the panelists that they should note what your concerns.
Most definitely.
Earlier on, you mentioned about the IMF. Yeah. So now think of our country, the third world country, and there are some times we do need the help from institutions like the IMF. So unless you are going to tell me that you are going to get things from China, which it's got its own drawbacks when it goes to China. I can give you one example on how China chases countries which hasn't paid them money. They actually is one of the Asian countries. They built a port there, and that country couldn't afford to pay the money. They grabbed the whole thing. So you tell me, personally, no matter how bad IMF might be, they are better to Komora and drama from them. That's my opinion. Unless you tell me that there's another place we can go and get. China is not a good place to go and get, because if you can't pay, they come and grab the same thing they built for you.
Thank you so much.
So that's for the panel. That's all I wanted to hear, because I wasn't satisfied
so much,
with
Comrade
the panel anyway, what you answered.
Thank you so much, Comrade Percy, and I'm sure our able leaders here are going to respond to you. Who wants to respond while we are waiting for Chalwe?
A quick one, Himba.
Okay, kindly Mwachilanda then Alaisa Kuliba Nondo.
Okay. Firstly, under a minute.
Yeah.
I did not react to Kuliba Nondo as well, but I like to sum up Tonsepamo in the person.
Okay.
Firstly, in my submission, I said, Ngatule Kongolama lending institution. The only one thing that we should bear in mind, we are all slaves when we borrow. Be it we borrow from China, be it to borrow from IMF, be it to borrow from Cuba. The truth of the matter, the statement that we should get in our heads is, Tule Kongola, we are borrowing. So a borrower is always a slave to the master. That's my submission. Why am I saying so?
Thank you.
There are times when we run out of cash, even at personal level, Munganda. We run out of cash. This is a reality. Are you telling us, are you telling us, oh, here, we don't need to go and borrow when we run out of cash? We can go and borrow. But the truth of the matter is, the negotiator is me. I need to go and borrow nicely, negotiate nicely. If I don't do that, then it is me who's making myself suffering. So what matters the most here, Himba and the panelists, is that when we borrow, we should borrow for right reasons. We should borrow from the right places. And when we borrow, lastly, we should make sure we don't borrow to spending. No. But for developmental issues. Because there's no way anywhere a banking institution that is giving us a loan will give us to go and develop Takwava. They don't give for development. But what they do is just for helping us.
Please sum up. Okay.
That's my submission. So if you like to submit, it's up to us whether to mismanage or manage the monies that we've been given.
Thank you so much, Comrade Zimba. Comrade Nondo, please come in.
I think to some extent, I agree with Zimba. He's making one very important emphasis that a borrower is not a free man. You are a slave. And this is a concept that IMF World Bank, and many other Eurocentric organizations knows very well. This is what they use as leverage to control other countries, especially African countries. I totally agree with you, my brother, to say yes. And we need to devise our thinking and our strategies, because we cannot be fooled all the time to say, no, IMF is the option to our problems. I'm sure most of the discussant here knows that at some point, there's a Zambian businessman who lent money to the government of this country. And I look forward to a day where people that have money in this country, like our president, our current president, is one of the richest people, that would actually sit with government and see how government can borrow from its own people. I'm not in support of borrowing from China. I'm not in support of borrowing from any other country. Can we first find our own homegrown solutions to the problems that we are having? But because we parade ourselves in a more desperate manner, then we find ourselves in this predicament. Now, coming to my other colleague who is trying to make an argument that is deeply rooted in a political ideology rather than in a vision of social justice. The Patriotic Front did not fail to secure
Comrade
the IMF.
Nondo, please sum up.
I'm summing up.
Thank you.
Did not fail to secure the IMF bailout because we were not spending money wisely. The conditions that we were given, first and foremost, truth must be told that IMF, like my colleague, Zimba said, IMF will never give you money. One of the conditions, they will never give you money to inject in your economy, but a consumptive loan that they're going to give you.
Thank you so much.
You hear it? We refused some of the conditions, like the removal of subsidy and also the allowing of gayism and homosexuality.
Thank you so much, comrade. We'll come to your reaction. We'll come to your reaction, comrade. Thank you so much for that brilliant and fantastic submission. Chalwe Tata, do your submission in 5 minutes.
I want us to remind ourselves of the fact that there is no country that has developed because of and from the concept that we are in favor of one loan or the other one, I think we have made a very serious argument saying we need an independent Africa. We need an independent Zambia. We cannot wake up today in 2023, almost 6 years after independence, and want to defend our dependency on the IMF or any other lending institution. I think we are missing the point. Because of that behavior, we have found ourselves in a situation where we have literally become beggars. We are always begging from these other nations, so in short, we are saying the solutions we need are supposed to be homegrown. I'll give you an example of the road deal that we have just gotten from the road from Ndola to Lusaka, or from Lusaka to Ndola. You can even see that it lacks the merit that we are looking at. And I'm hoping that that's the next topic that we tackle, because there are a lot of issues. I feel the Zambians have not received enough information to see that there are a lot of loopholes in it. The point being, we have a big issue of too much dependence on IMF. And when we are talking, we are saying, let's grow out of this. Our friends are not looking at the possibility of coming out. That is when they are leaning on it more than they are supposed to. As citizens first, I think our point has been very clear. We want to prune ourselves from the dependence on other countries. One, because we understand that there is no country in the nation, in Africa or anywhere in the world where development has come because of aid or because of loans from other countries. I think we have seen some cases of countries like Rwanda, We have seen some countries like Singapore who have decided to rid themselves of dependence and also coming to a point of admittance that they really need to be independent in order for the nations to grow. This dependency must come to an end. That is a cry of our people. As things are standing right now, I think the UPND are acting according to what they are thinking, not according to the will of the Zambian people. If we can go beyond that, I think we'll be looking at a different story. But I'm sorry, I believe that as we are talking right now, the UPND government is hooked, completely hooked to dependency on those entities. And for the coming 5 years, now 3 years, I think, or less than 4 years, we have a situation where we'll continue to depend on them. Who knows, maybe even our own president and the party itself, they are completely hooked and being controlled by the outside world. Whatever we are seeing is just a force that we are living with. They may not even be in charge of our nation. That is our fear. Like Zimba has said, we are slaves. And I'm quoting Zimba on this one. We are slaves to the entities, institutions that are giving us money. I submit.
Thank you so much, Chalwe, and for that brilliant submission. Do we have any reaction to Mr. Chalwe's submission, comrades? Okay. Womkelebai, please go ahead with
my 5 minutes.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I will still repeat. If we want to be holy and talk about holiness, we ourselves have to be holy, to be clean. Let's come to this podium with clean hands. Let's talk about certain topics that we are very conversant with and with facts, not just because it suits us. What we have to look at here, Chalo, is how is our Zambian economy performing? How has it performed? From the time immemorial, we have been given the autonomy to run our own country without any interferences, but we showed that we are incapable. Starting from the Chiruba regime over Kaunda Bene, from Chiruba, the only regime that really tried to help the nation or that tried to bring sanity into our economy, where the borrowers or the lenders had to come in and say, okay, we forgive you. All these debts that were acquired frivolously, illegitimately, we know what happened during the Chiruba regime. Monies were stolen, our own resources that we Zambians ought to have developed our country to a level where we could be like Dubai today. But because of our selfishness, our greediness, we chose, because this was not, we chose to spend money on our own needs. We destroyed our economy. And then
we are talking about
IMF. We went back to IMF to request or to donors. It is us, the Zambian people, that went to request, not the donors coming to us upon seeing us that we destroyed our own nation, our own economy. We, the Zambian people, went. We, through Manawasa, went and asked for forgiveness. Mutueleleko, please forgive us the debts. We came back to zero. They forgave us. And then we started Ichipia. Through Lupia Banda, Balisha economy well. Baisa Sata, economy yamba kuya punch. Balungu yaingirana muchirindi. Today, we are here talking about our economy. We are in huge debts. We have huge debts. Who created these debts? What have we done with the money? What productive issues or projects that we've done that brings money to our economy? Nadia, nothing. But look at the people that were running the economy, who were running the offices, who were running the government. The government got so poor that the people that were running...
Is it the IMF that made the people to be poor? Or it's our own leaders who couldn't plan?
It is our leadership. It is ourselves. We want to. Through our selfish greediness, we are so rich. The people that were running government are so rich that the government itself is so poor that we even defaulted. We failed to pay from the borrowers, from the lenders. Today we go back to the lenders to say, please, look at the mess that our colleagues created. How do we come out of this? We need your help. We need your injection. If you inject something in this, please, we are ready to fix our economy. I am a conditions, Valeland, that this government went and started coming up with conditions or agreeing to any condition the IMF gave. Please, let's agree to, let's learn to agree to disagree. Ichinka is that the lender cannot just give money without giving their own conditions or without even knowing that their money is safe.
But are those conditions making Zambia safe?
Those conditions, they are making Zambia safe because Zambians are the ones that went with those conditions in the first place to discuss, for them to be given whatever amount of money. They said, we are ready to change. We are ready. We are not going to put this country in distress again.
Please, sum up.
So, in a nutshell, we are the reason we are the only danger to ourselves. It's not the IMF. We have the monopoly to choose anyone we want to go and borrow money to, because we can actually sit down and assess the conditions that what these people are offering, whether they are favorable for us. So if they were favorable, who are we not to come in and say, come guys, come on board, give us money, we are ready. But if we are not agreeable, we can simply leave them. It is entirely up to us. So the danger, it is us. We are a danger to our own selves. Self-hate, former Africans. Self-hate. Why do we...
Thank you so much, Kelevai. Please sum up, dear.
We have destroyed our own economy. There has never been IMF that came to tell us to go and buy indekesha dula ama fire tenders dula. There has never been those things. The IMF
Thank you so much, Kelevai.
We did it to ourselves. Lelo tulanda tini IMF tumekwata kwechinka.
Thank you so much, Kelevai. Nondo, what is your reaction now?
Mayo andi tuli mu bwafya. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, when you live in the house of a slave, this is why those of us that are Pan-Africanists understand the difference between a house Negro and a field Negro. A field Negro will go to a house Negro and say, my brother, can we run? This brother of mine who lives in the master's house would say, if I run, where will I find this food? Where will I find this kind of life? Because he's content with such kind of life. But abantu tufile tu abebe fishinga. Ideli ashiba mkereba ibare leteria kwa no, we are the ones that we are buying indekesha dula, tualeshita fire tender dula, nifila turanda muchibemba tuwa kupata, taga kwebyati busumabobe. Today we have a government that has bought another plane amongst the many indekesha bakateka na shimbi balishitirapo. Last time tuwalela anda pamitengo ya njinge shushashitwa. So if we are to go into politics, somebody must not make a to say if you're Barelanda, a fishing, then if you want to be
Nondo, your voice, we can't hear you, Comrade Nondo. What has happened to your gadget?
But it's very wrong to assume that your friends are wrong. You are the only one who is right. But we understand. We understand our colleagues. They want to create an impression that they are pro-Europeans and they should be loved by Europeans. But we are talking the truth. Nothing but the truth. IMF conditions are nowhere near to better our lives.
CJ,
and I expected that we are going to have this debate from a Pan-African, perspective. But we are so divided to a point where we want to defend anything using a political, spectacles.
Comrade Nondo,
just because I live in this particular part of the world, then everything that happens in there, I should just say yes, Bwana, yes, Bwana. That's a typical of an African thinking.
Okay.
We need to call a spade a spade.
Comrade Nondo, please sum up.
That why sakulira topic ira imbiria ya Nkongole ishiba napsa bale Kongwesha nomba wa China. You see, I don't know how my brother is going to defend all these things.
Thank you so much, Comrade Nondo.
He's much focused to tell the people and to convince us saying, no, IMF is okay. It's because of the previous government.
Comrade Nondo,
thank you
so much.
Now you have
just a single country in Africa.
Comrade Nondo, thank you so much.
Because of the loans or the so-called help from the IMF.
May I interject?
Comrade, thank you. Wamkelebai, come in, and then Comrade Frank, please react. Your 3 minutes. Wamkelebai, react to Comrade Nondo, whatever interjection you have.
It's so sad. I know. But they are now putting me because I live somewhere and I'm Botlika wa Abasungu. That's a mistake. Abasungu abatupele mpieshi. Tabale to how to spend this money. They are not the ones that have made us to be in this mess. It's our own people. That's my position. Our own ministers, member of parliament, presidents, they are the people that are using. Even those people we are claiming that today they are sitting down and praising the IMF. Those are our leaders. They are Africans. They are the ones that are going to mess up this nation. If at all the deals they're making are not going to heal any developmental, they are Africans, they are Zambians. Are they Europeans? That's where you should understand. It is us. It is embedded in us. Ukuyumfwa, bukabolala, dishonest. We are liars. We want to show that we are clever to say things that we don't even have facts.
Thank you so much.
Let's bring them on the table. Not Bantu.
Thank you so much.
May I finish, Himba? We have done this to ourselves. We have inflicted this injury, this pain to ourselves, not the IMF. No.
Okay. Thank you so much for that brilliant submission. Zimba, what is your reaction? Under 3 minutes.
Okay. One thing that I want to put very clear, according to Nama submissions there for your side. The only aspect that I'm busy laughing at, I'm a panelist na Himba, is where we want to blame the bolo, the lender. Lender kwatashani problem. Let me give you a practical example. We are living in a small unit of a family. That family not kwata maybe income is a panganda. Number 4 beneto auna income yesu ilio tudira morionse. We go and borrow number somewhere else. Now, when we get a loan to achita borrow, after 4 beneto it's a squandem pia income yesu. Are you telling me that valatwala Kongola ko kaloba, be it nganiwa izwe, be it nganiwa finance shaniko iyati I finance, or even if it's Stanbic or it's FNB, am I going to blame FNB? No. The money now that I borrow, since I squandered that money, when I squander that one, I go and borrow again. It is up to entirely me to know where to spend that money. Now, this is the problem. Let me put it in a narrative of an African country like Zambia. Zambia has got resources like we are speaking today. Zambia has got so much income to survive on. But when we squander our own resources here as Zambians, we are left without any income to look on or maybe to survive on. Then later on, at a certain particular day, we know we cannot live angry in Gachalo. We decide to say, no, let us go and borrow somewhere. When we borrow, just like Wamkereba was saying, if our own leaders misuse that money, we cannot blame IMF. We cannot blame China. We cannot blame if it's Cuba. We need to blame ourselves. What we need to start rethinking as Zambians or Africans is now thinking with straight brains and straight minds. These politicians to Salah, Emma problems to Quarter, these are the people that have landed us into these problems. So there's no way we should blame a lender like IMF. Me, I have no problem with IMF. I have no problem with China. Because even at the point of need, we should put that in mind. Even at a point of need, we are not islands. Now, when we need other people, they give us that help. It is entirely up to us to use that help nicely, and provided that we use it with maximum caution to where it should develop or bring some developmental things either on ourselves or on our country. Now, if we are borrowing for consumption, that is where we are having a problem.
Zimba, thank you so much. Please summarize.
Madam Himba, can I react to that?
Before you summarize, Comrade Zimba, there's a reaction here. Yes, Nondo.
Oh, okay.
Bazimba pakurekeresha babika point yakwe bati we can't be borrowing for consumption. My brother, if you went through the conditions of the IMF, one of the conditionalities of the IMF is that you cannot borrow money to inject in your economy. You need to borrow a consumptive loan. For instance, civil servants. So it's not like I submitted earlier on. It's not you to decide how you're going to use that money. They will tell you. They will even go into details. I'm telling you. They will go into details in telling you how that money must be used. That's why no wonder they set up their own offices at the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Zambia so that they can control your own resources. This is why they will give you conditions to say, this you can't do, this you can do. You have no any choice. And I repeat, you don't sit with the IMF to negotiate because there's nothing to negotiate. They have rules and regulations. They have their own standards. If you don't qualify, you don't qualify. There's nothing like, no, we are going to negotiate. You are not negotiating anything. They are just telling you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Nondo. Thank you so much. Well, Frank, do you have any reaction to that?
No, let me just finish.
Okay.
So, like I was saying, yes, when you are borrowing, don't borrow for consumption. This is in public domain. Loan like it's in public domain. Even the Ministry of Finance is there. But the only one thing that we should put in mind is when we come, like Bom Kerewa is saying, let's not speak out of propaganda. The IMF have not set an office at the Ministry of Finance. I go almost there every week. Yes.
Comrade Zimba.
We are not arguing. You had made your submission. I frequently visit that office of Ministry of Finance, and I visit the Ministry of the Bank of Zambia. These are offices that I'm almost conversant with. I've never seen or I've never heard any office of the IMF. That is total propaganda. Now, when you borrow, there's nowhere, unless he has a document which he can show, Nangupano Pene, where the IMF says you can only borrow for consumption. No. Sometimes when we speak
Zimba, please come up.
So we should speak with facts, not propaganda. Let's not propagate, but let's speak from what can help Zambians. When we borrow, the borrower...
Thank you so much, Comrade Zimba. Thank you so much.
All right, okay, thank you.
Chalwe, your submission in 3 minutes.
I think our submissions are very clear. Let's not auction our country. We only have one country. And as long as the principles of governance are not changing towards one where we are self-reliant and we're able to man our own things instead of getting bending towards the requirements of IMF or indeed any other institution, I think we are going to be in some serious trouble. What is agreeable up to this point, and this we observe as citizens first, and I think we have discussed this a lot with President what we have seen is the dependence that was there in the time of Chiluba is the same dependence that we are seeing here. The effects, maybe we had some negative effects of privatization then. We are beginning to see that the terms that are being given, we are unaware of anything that UPND is doing. But Zimba is saying things are in public domain. I'm sorry, even Comrade Zimba is not privy to a lot of information. He cannot discuss the PPP concerning the roads that was done. We all just were surprised that once this issue is out in the public domain, the documents are coming out already signed. So we are just reactors to whatever they are doing. Whatever is going on, you can sense the presence of an underhand method approach to doing things. And that is affecting our nation. We have not discussed the details and deals of the IMF. Do you know why we are failing to discuss it? Because the conviction that is driving us already is that the presence of IMF is an interference to a child that wants to walk. We wish to walk as a nation, but there's always this big brother or whatever we are going to call it, which is giving us a hand saying, hold my hand, I help you walk. No, I want to learn how to walk. I don't want to depend on you. I see that there is a big battle between the UPND and the PF. The UPND continuously, can you get me?
Yes.
All right, so the UPND is continuously hitting on the PF, and the PF is continuously hitting on the UPND. What's our observation? Our observation is the UPND has decided to follow the same path of borrowing, which was being followed by the PF. And the PF, in their state of current opposition, they have noticed that that was not the correct path. I don't know why when we are in opposition, we are this wise. I don't understand. But when you go into power, I don't know from Sanganga Maingiram government, such that our minds become so confused, things that all of us agreed, including Zimba and UPND, now PF right now, now Bwalya, they were agreed
power is sweet.
That power is sweet, and they are failing to now accept that the road towards IMF is quicksand. We have lost our freedom. We, as a nation, we are just watching like this. If you have seen, people out there are no longer talking. And we are saying, why can't Africa own up? There's no growth that just happens without suffering. We'll feel the pain of growing up. We'll feel the pain of doing or coming up with industries. We'll feel the pain of us taking the lead in national development. I refuse personally, Chair, that I am going
Chalwe, there's an interjection here, my brother. Finally,
I can see you.
Chalwe, ikishinka chali I don't know, chiri mubemba buniti kibobunde chishinka chisuma kweba abantu not sugarcoating mwamona if turela doctor tatwishi ama conditions by IMF na ba Zambia the current government have entered into that's a lie. You know, we the Zambian people know what we agreed with the IMF. That's why the IMF agreed to even issue or to release that amount of money. And this amount of money that IMF released, the Zambian government today never wanted to borrow more money, but circumstances, there are situations that precipitated to the Zambian government to borrow this money, because what they found in the treasury and the economy currently is not in our favor today. You know, Zambia, we are struggling right now. Nemitengo, shire nina. We are the people who are busy blaming this current government that is trying to mitigate. I know, because you are opposition, you always not
please wind up.
So what I can only say is that Tulelande Chinka, let's just be honest with the Zambian people.
Okay.
I know we are going to vote for you if you are being honest, not because you want to sugarcoat.
Thank you so much, Kelebai. Thank you so much. Chalwe, Comrade Chalwe, please continue.
Yes.
And you react.
I know that you vote for.
Yeah.
ati twila kongola nombenga wakongola empya tali kupanga ka budget nechalo chifwire chapanga budget
Bahimba, sorry, before tamulais Bahimba nga ulefo kuya kongola indalama ku banki ba banki nabo balafuaya ko ka security tefyo collateral tefyo tabapela pele
twatotera bo Mukelebai bachalwe n'ababwera CJ.
Thank you very much. I was saying, I know you vote for us.
We are now going to the concluding phase, concluding phase of our program. And in our conclusions, generally it is believed that when IMF gives out this loan, these conditions are to ensure that they are able to get back their money. So they will set up the conditions they put in place in order to make sure they offer some form of oversight. Now, in your conclusions, can Zambia do without getting a loan, whether from IMF, China, or from wherever? Is Zambia able to develop? Because we're already indebted.
Thank you very much. Someone was giving examples to say we always borrow, but not when you are a perpetual borrower. Even those who you borrow from will start suspecting that they are our usual customer. And that is why we are saying we need to have a cut. We must reach a point where we are no longer borrowing, all right? When we borrow, it's because it is being necessitated by something, not just for us to consume and so on. I'll give you an example. Bamkelabai gave some very, and those are extremely valid points, Bamkelabai, I assure you. Except we are missing the point. The requirement of UPND to go and borrow from the IMF may have nothing to do with the coffer level amount of money that was there. It may be compounded by the high budget that they decided to live with. They bring in the issue of employing so many teachers, which was a good thing.
It's like we've lost both CJ and Chalwe. Zimba, what is your reaction as we conclude? In your concluding remarks?
Okay, the basic bottom line that we all need to understand is we don't need to blame the lender. Inachocho ndeka na chakula chita blame ule ule tuafuako bwafirisho.
Okay, but sorry, my dear. Sorry.
All right. Okay.
But Chalwe, step thought you. Comrade Chalwe, please go ahead.
Very sorry. I think today I've sat all the way up to the end. At least some credit up to that point, but we'll rectify this. We'll be able to be going and be stepped all the way. So we are saying, while we do appreciate what Mamkeleva has indicated, we must also appreciate that we are looking for an opportunity to let go of this dependency. We cannot continue depending on them. We must create a situation where we are no longer. The UPND created a very high budget, very ambitious budget. When they failed to meet that target, they needed to borrow. That's how come they went to IMF. Not because there wasn't money. I think money is being collected. But when you talk of the levels of requirements and the ambition that they had, definitely we needed the change. They felt the pressure and made the PF a scapegoat. Come on, guys, let's be honest. Borrowing is necessary. But there are times when Zimba na Bwalya, in your home you have eaten soya chunks because you are managing finances. You have had no choice. But when the UPND came, first of all,
Kalembula amasoya chunks
yakubyala. But instead, so I want to drive this point that we have blamed the past so much, forgetting that the budgetary allocation for the UPND, when they came into power, they raised the requirements of CDF from a meager about 1 million to as much as 25 million, to the excitement of all of us, because it meant development, which we are not seeing, by the way, all right? And the effect is that it raised the cost on the budget side. End result is now you, Bamkelawai, Zimba, and the rest of a lot of UPND people trying to defend what deep down their hearts they know they have caused by themselves. So I submit that we need to manage as the citizens first. We are saying first, be prudent, live within your means, which the UPND has not done. And we have invited a
Comrade Zimba, please come in.
Okay, I was saying, what we need to accept and put on the table is that we need to stop blaming the lender. Uleo Kongo shata kwata problem. Fuewa kwata ma problems ni fuewo. So what we are looking for now is leadership that is accountable to its people. Leadership that is consistent. Leadership that is not crooked. When we have such leaders in power, like who have started seeing Muriba UPND, a leadership to lefwai, this kind of leadership can only create a necessary environment where there will be no need to borrow anymore. We shall live within the means of whatever we produce as a country and whatever we have as a country. But minus that, believe me, you will continue to rally on the path. Every now and then we become, like Chalwe is saying, a consistent borrower. Why? Because of leadership, or the leaders that are chosen that are inconsistent, inaccountable to the people, and want to live lives that are way beyond their means. That's why, like earlier said, in my submission, this is why we have a problem with African leaders, particularly Zambian leaders. A Zambian leader today will come in office and become rich instantly in 1 year. While the majority Zambian people are feeding on a leader that has been chosen by the people should first think, what is best for my people? Now, minus that, that is why we are ending up every now and then borrowing. What we need to do is to now have leaders in place that are consistent with the policies of accountability and transparency. Thank you, I submit.
Thank you so much, Comrade.
Transparency is what we need today. Dependence syndrome of depending on international. Can somebody please switch off the mic? Dependence. Could someone please switch off the mic? Thank you. The dependence syndrome is what we need to avoid as a country. Right now, from the amount of money that we borrowed so far, what is it that we can point at as Zambian? What is it that we can point at as Zambian that the money, the 6 billion or the 30 billion that we borrowed, this is where we are going to get our profit or have more our money, or we invested into this project that is going to yield back dividends. What I am seeing in our country is that we are the ones who are at fault. We are the ones who are the problems. If we can change our mindset, if we can change this mindset of perceiving government as our only source of income to enrich ourselves whenever we want to go, then we are going to avoid going to the IMF or anybody to borrow money. Because when I look at the money, the amount of money that each individual people that either saved before, today you will find that.
Comrade Mkeleba, just wait. Wo Chalwe, Lemben Mkwale, can you watch the first submitting of Nondo? Then I'll come. Go ahead, Mkeleba.
If we are to audit and get and see how much our brothers and sisters that were in previous governments, or even these who are current in government, you will find that they are more richer than the government that they are busy running to. The government is just a stepping stone to their so-called richness. So we should avoid that. How to avoid that is to be open, to be frank and honest and transparent. Share the information, whatever dealings that you are doing with the whatever investors, share it to the nation so that they know, they see. Because we saw what secrecy has landed our brothers. We shall forever talk about our brothers from the previous regime because of the huge amount of money, the debt that we are.
Please sum up.
You are cutting me.
Please sum up.
We are going to talk about them for as long as we have this debt that has precipitated us to borrow more. So we can only avoid this if our brothers and sisters in government avoid secrecy, keeping information to themselves. We want transparency. And government is not a stepping stone to riches.
Okay, thank you so much, Mkeleba. Comrade Nondo, under 3 minutes, please make your conclusion remarks. You are muted, Comrade Nondo.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I will begin by saying my people perished because of lack of knowledge. I want to challenge my two colleagues from the UPND that they should not just be visiting the Bank of Zambia and the Minister of Finance. Let them go and establish the fact. And it's on record that even today or tomorrow, if they went to the Minister of Finance and the Bank of Zambia, they will be able to find the office for the IMF. Secondly, we've been accused of not being prudent, not being transparent, and I want to raise this issue because it was supposed to be part of this discussion. Today, we have leaders that have acquired shares in the mines and telling their own followers to form cooperatives. So according to my two colleagues from the UPND, that is transparent enough. Up to date, the UPND has borrowed from IMF. The nation has not been told the conditions that were given to them by the IMF, and they are claiming to be very transparent. We are being accused of borrowing. I would love my two colleagues to submit and tell the nation what UPND has done with the money that they borrowed, because we are being accused of, running propaganda and so forth. For Bamukelewa, I usually forgive him because he's out of touch with the reality. He's not in Zambia, and he's just dependent on third information and even fifth information. He needs to be fed on social media and many other media. Bamdala, for every background, we know what is happening. For instance, if you talk about UPND
Nondo, submit and please submit.
Let me conclude.
Bamukelewa is not IMF. I'm not going to allow any reactions now.
No. I was giving my submission based on what he actually said.
Comrade Nondo, please go ahead.
Let me conclude.
Yes.
Lyaba UPND neirodi barera ndati Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway. In the first place, Bamukelewa, you should know that there's no any dual carriageway in that arrangement, in that agreement. Ba contractor baramureba ba Macro Ocean is a company that is owned by a friend of the president, and they went to subcontract.
Nondo, please,
I want to emphasize on the point where he's saying they shall forever talk about PF because we are not transparent.
No,
how transparent is UPND today? How transparent is UPND today? Mubule ndala mashaba napsa. Esho mwe mupere ba aviki. Yet there's a contractor who is going to tafire pangana sense. So let's not pretend to be transparent. Tapa Kongola ba aviki Chalwe sa Kongola na mumule Kongola kuli ba aviki mwapera 25 years. Ukuya mukusendini ndala mashana kan. Isha target.
Comrade, thank you so much. As we come to the end of the program, I would love to appreciate you for the brilliant and fantastic submission and for your time to come and be with us and educate the masses through Ubuntu channel. 3J, over to you.
Well, viewers, thank you very much. I'd like to apologize for the technical challenges that I've been having. However, you can get information concerning the IMF from their website, and there are a number of documents that are listed there pertaining to the $1.3 billion that Zambia requested from them. Please go through, read, and familiarize yourself with some of those things, though we couldn't really go through everything on this program. Please do make a date with us. We'll be discussing the dual carriage way project that is trending, and make sure you make a date with us, make your submissions so that we can have a wonderful discussion over that issue. Himba, back to you.
Thank you so much, CJ.
Madam Moderator, don't forget in your preambles, please, every time remember to mention the number of months that this government has been in office.
That's not our duty here. No, thank you. That's not our duty. No, thank you. But no, don't forget that. No, Frankie, thank you so much. Thank you so much. But as we conclude,
next week.
As we conclude, our leaders out there, we are saying, tuila Kongola ati tulie bekoni, tulie Kongola ati tulie efe tulie kwanisha munganda mumwesu. We are saying, can you represent us very well on an international, and whatever decision you make, let it be in the interest of the Zambian people. We don't care whether you're in leadership or you're in the opposition. All we are looking for is for you to develop our country and take care of our national assets in transparency, in honestness, because we want you to be accountable. Please carry us with you as you are implementing these developmental issues, because they are part of our lives. Our viewers there, thank you so much. Not forgetting Ubuntu crew, our director, our graphics, and thank you for being with us throughout the night, and make a date with that next week. From us as a team, it's bye-bye.